Hi, my name is Emily. I'm 25 years old. I've been struggling with addiction for 9 years. I used to be a methamphetamine user, but now I've been in the guidance program at New Beginnings Recovery Center for 7 months. I grew up in a family with 3 siblings. Since I was a child, there was always violence in my household. My parents would constantly argue, fight, and abuse each other. The violence at home never stopped. I saw school as an escape. I wanted to be at school all the time. I hated coming home at night. The police were always at our house because of the fights and chaos. My mom was abused, and so were we. Eventually, my mom couldn't take it anymore and decided to divorce my dad. After the divorce, we stayed with my dad, but the abuse continued. After a while, we couldn't live with my dad anymore. Every school year, we had to move somewhere else. One year, we stayed with my grandmother. Another year, with my aunts or my uncle. Most of the time, my paternal grandmother looked after us. Everywhere I went, I felt like a burden, like I didn't belong. I didn't have a place to call my own. This made me feel incredibly lonely. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. My mom tried to visit us occasionally, but my dad wouldn't let her see us. During this time, I kept everything to myself. I was scared of everyone. I experienced both psychological and physical abuse. I started drinking alcohol in high school. One day after school, my friends and I drank on the stairs. After that, I thought going to college would be my way out. I believed everything would change, that I could fix my life and create a future of my own. My grandmother supported me during my first year of college, but she passed away during my second semester. After that, I felt even more alone. I had no one left, and I started drinking even more. I drank every morning, every day. Alcohol became a crutch for me. After college, I called my mom and asked if I could move in with her. She agreed, and I moved in. My mom's mental health wasn't great either. She had endured so much abuse from my dad. She had even been stabbed in the arm and neck. She had been hurt and mistreated by so many people. At first, living with her was good. We got along well, but my alcohol addiction created tension between us, and we started fighting. One day, after another argument about my drinking, she got so angry and kicked me out. I was shocked. I had lost the last place I could go. That night, I wandered the streets until morning. I had given up on everything and decided I would live my life alone, without expecting anything from anyone. I got my own place. I had some friends who would visit me, but one day, a friend brought weed. They were smoking and they offered it to me. I tried it. I always wanted to belong somewhere, to feel like I was part of something. When I joined them in smoking, I felt accepted. It gave me a false sense of happiness, a temporary escape. Soon, I was meeting those friends just to use drugs together. Every time we met, we used. Eventually, I was exposed to harder drugs. The occasional use wasn't enough anymore. I needed more and more. One day, I tried synthetic marijuana, K2, with some friends. I blacked out. I was new to using it, and when I came to, I could only hear voices around me. I told my friend I needed to leave immediately, and I left that house. I was living alone again, unsure of what to do. The drugs weren't enough anymore, and I couldn't hold down a job. I was in a terrible place. My family had cut ties with me. I even lost the feeling of belonging to my friends, because our relationships were based only on drugs. I had nowhere to belong. To make things worse, some people had opened a business in my name, leaving me with massive debts. I was completely lost. One day, I tried to end my life by cutting my wrists. I was waiting to die because I didn't see any hope or future. Later, the people who had put the business under my name found me at home and took me to the hospital. Even after that, I went back to using drugs. The drugs weren't enough anymore, and I was introduced to meth. I went to try it with a friend. They told me it would make me happy, that it was harmless, and that it would give me the greatest high I'd ever experienced. I believed them. That day, I started using meth. It was another fake happiness. Using meth left me homeless. I was sleeping outside, not knowing what to do with my life. I couldn't see how much it was destroying me. Eventually, I went back to my mom's house, but she thought I had quit everything. At first, I worked a little, but soon I couldn't hold down a job anymore. When she realized I was lying and still using, she kicked me out again. I was losing everything, piece by piece. I hit rock bottom after my mom kicked me out again. I had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. The streets became my home. Each day was a battle to survive. I scavenged through trash bins for food and begged strangers for spare change. The cold nights were unbearable, and the hunger was constant. But the worst part was the shame. I couldn't recognize myself anymore. Meth had completely taken over my life. One night, I found myself curled up on a park bench, staring at the stars. I tried to remember the last time I felt happiness, but nothing came to mind. I whispered to myself, how did I let it get this bad? How did I lose everything? Thoughts of my mom lingered in my mind, and I wondered if she still cared or even thought about me. I felt like a ghost, alive but barely existing. Then, one evening, while I was lying under a bridge, I heard someone calling my name. I thought it was another hallucination, but as the voice got closer, I realized it wasn't in my head. It was my mom. She had found me. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Her hands trembled as she reached out to me. Emily, she said, please come home. I can't lose you. Let me help you. I broke down in tears. For the first time in years, I felt something inside me shift. I felt her love, her desperation to save me. I leaned into her arms and whispered, Mom, I'm tired. I need help. She didn't waste a second. She took me to a rehab center immediately. The first few days were the hardest. My body ached and my mind screamed for the drugs. The withdrawal symptoms felt like torture. I wanted to run, to escape the pain, but my mom stayed by my side. She held my hand and said, You are stronger than this, Emily. I believe in you. Her words were my anchor. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I began to understand how much damage I had caused, not just to myself, but to the people who loved me. I realized how much my mom had sacrificed for me. I promised her and myself that I would never go back to that life. When I walked out of rehab after completing the program, the world felt new. The air smelled fresher, the sun felt warmer, and for the first time in years, I had hope. My mom was waiting for me with open arms. She said, This is your second chance, Emily, and I'm so proud of you. Since then, my life has transformed. My mom and I have rebuilt our relationship, and it's stronger than ever. We have breakfast together every morning, talking about life and our dreams. I've started working at a community center, helping others who are struggling with addiction. Sharing my story with them gives me purpose and fulfillment. Some nights, I lie in bed and think about the person I used to be. It's painful, but it also reminds me of how far I've come. Today, I'm alive, I'm loved, and I have a future. To anyone out there who feels lost, who thinks it's too late to change, I want you to know it's not. If I can find my way back, so can you. Thank you for listening to my story.